blowsies.
And full blown one more time. So how did that start with you guys?
I think as fans, it was fun because you get to figure out what their destinies are. And I think one of the things that was great about American Pie is you just look at the characters and say, I know that guy, I know that guy. They all sort of represent a different kind of high school archetype. And so we try to just think of that, for people in their early 30s, or I guess they'd be yeah, it was 13-year reunion. That was a whole weird thing. But we just felt okay, there's the guy who peaked in high school. That's Stifler. There's the guy who just sort of fell off the map and nobody's heard of for years. That's going to be Finch. And you just start to think about it. Okay, well, we wanted to keep what everybody loved about the characters from the first movie. Okay, so Jim is sexually frustrated. He's not getting laid. Well, now he's married with a kid, but he's also sexually frustrated and not getting laid. So you just try to find that similar thing from the first movie, but in a new kind of stage of life.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a take on, I think today, I mentioned earlier that my brother took me to see American Pie when I was 9. And that's kind of how I lived the 90s generation. But the last movie, oddly, that we saw together, we just haven't been to the movies, I guess, but he's back home in Louisiana, was American Reunion. I made it a point, I want it to be full circle. We saw all 4 films, because I think that these movies, especially in Reunion, you don't realize that behind the pie jokes and the sex jokes and the sex scenes and the raunchiness, there's a lot of heart to these films. And I think these movies are completely underrated on that level. And so writing the script for Reunion, knowing how important it is to so many fans, once you had the script, what did you do with the cast? Did Jason read it? Did Kaye read it? What did they say? What did they?
The big thing for us was we were fans of the movie, so we're let's write the Reunion movie that we'd want to see, and we felt like we had such a love and knowledge of that first film and the franchise that we could, place them into places in the world that they were, all these years later, that hopefully the actors and the filmmakers and everyone involved with it would see, okay, these guys get it. This is conceivably where these characters could be. And it became the thing. We wrote the script, and then it was, okay, now the actor's going to read it. We were just thinking, hopefully they like it. And then we started to get, reactions and from all of the actors who had read it and sat down with each person in the movie.
We met next door.
Yeah.
We met at Lulu's.
Well,
That's
you
right.
guys had already been in Harold and Kumar, so you knew Eddie.
But we've known Eddie for years. But this was us taking on a whole new thing. Yeah, we ate at Lulu's next door. We sat down and he had read the script.
Yeah, and they pitched me all this stuff, and I felt like I was supposed to say something, but I was like, yeah, sure, we'll do that.
That's
sounds
right.
great.
That's right. It's before.
I just remember Jason, reading the script, really liking it, and saying, I think that there's something I need to go even further in this one. And he was I just think of something, I'm willing to do anything. And so that's when we wrote him showing his memory.
Dick.
Yes. Yes.
I remember we were in Atlanta in pre-production on the movie. We were making revisions to the script, and Jason wanted that one thing, and I was like, we came up with the idea of, okay, well, how can he go further? We're he's got to show his dick. I remember texting him and just saying, all right, so you said you'll do anything. You're showing your dick in the movie, and he was like, I'm in. There was no discussion. There was no debate. There was no weird agent phone call. It was just I'm fucking doing it. I'm in immediately.
Well, that was
I remember actually because it is when you do that, I think the lawyers do have to we have to put in the kind. I was I remember getting the phone call and I was like, I'm not taking this fucking phone. I'm not, what? Just I'm signing it. I don't remember, but it was well, we have to put in the thing, the language about a nudity rider or some shit. I'm like, fuck off. Here's my dick.
All the
They couldn't show your second dick though.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That is a good point. I kept my second ticket. It'll be for American Pies.
I mean, I feel like what the next level would be after Full Frontal for that long. But you've showed your ass in the first scene, right? It was full taint, yes. But
I'm gonna have to shove my own dick up my ass.
is there any? You won't
If there's
do
heart,
anything?
too. As long as there's heart.
Yeah,
It's actually true. I mean, the truth is, it is. Like, you can go fucking anywhere as long as, like, in the context of like a real story. And, like,
It helps you bond with your family.
And as long as Chris Klein is somewhere, like, saying something sweet, like 10 minutes before. As long as he's like, baby, I just miss you. And then I can just like dick swing. We're good. That's what Klein is for. He's my hype man. He's my setup man. He's my handsome guy that comes in and I just come in with my dick wagon. All right, how many? I feel like you could ask questions all night long, my man. These guys want to watch another movie, right? At some point? How much time do we have? Not so much? I don't know. How many?
All right,
is there a time? No, I don't want to. I was just wondering. Am I an asshole? I'm an asshole? I have a newborn at home. What the fuck? I feel like I've done good work here tonight and I'm ready to go. No? All right, keep going. What's next?
No, I mean, just.
Lock the doors and back,
I
guys.
feel like,
If anybody
like-
has a 3-inch key to a padlock, please raise your hand.
I feel like there's actually so many awesome fans in the audience. I know one person Facebook messaged me, they spent $200 on concert tickets for tonight with their girlfriend, blew off their girlfriend and brought like his homie to be here tonight. But yeah, well basically he wasted $200 just to be here. So let's go with that. So yeah, let's ask a few fan questions. Raise your hand if you have a question. Yes.
I know music is such a big important part in this movie, so I'm just wondering what were the conversations that you had for like the introduction of Stifler's mom, or were you just sitting in the room and thinking like, what are we gonna have? What kind of song we're gonna have Jason Biggs strip to? You know?
I mean, yeah, I think the Stifler's mom one was after we screened it a few times because everything else was cost nothing, and Mrs. Robinson. And not even, man, that's kind of a cheap joke, but you know, it was nice to have.
Well, once it tested well, we had more resources to sort of choose cues like that. But prior to that, we just loaded up as many sort of current songs as we could so the previews would test well. Then you realize that's great. Now, how do we afford any of that stuff? So it's always a process. But
Yeah,
these
so
guys,
none of that stuff is in there actually.
Yeah.
It's interesting how Laid became like.
I know that it was like
It's the anthem.
I mean, it fit it perfectly. But these guys are incredibly attuned to music, and I think when you see American Reunion, you'll recognize how incredibly precise every single song that they chose fits into the movie. It was a really fun. That's afterwards. That's a lot of fun.
This was kind of the introduction of Blink-182, right?
Yeah.
And then they were on like every soundtrack since then until
They're in the
Reunion.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say, holy shit.
All
With a
right.
monkey.
With a monkey.
With a monkey.
All right. You in the red. Yes.
You mentioned that the pie scene was added late into the screenwriting of the.
It was just before, literally 3 days before the script was sent
Okay,
out.
so was there an original title? Was there an alternate title before that?
The title of the script went out was The title that it went out with was Untitled Teenage Sex Comedy That Can Be Made for $10 Million that studio readers are going to hate, but we think you're going to love. Was the actual title, and then AKA Great East Grand Rapids High, because at the time it was East Grand Rapids, because Adam Urs, the writer, used all his real friends and their names, which we found out after it sold, and I had to change that fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's it like working on such a long-running comedy series? Like you don't see a lot of like 4s in comedy. What's it like to go back
Technically 8.
to technically 8? What's it like to go back from something that like you guys were the age every time they played these roles? How is that to embody these characters throughout different life changes you guys go through?
That's too good a question, bro. It's fucking 10:30. I mean, Jesus. Fucking Roger Ebert over here. Yeah. Ready? Very good. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
It's hard not to imitate yourself, or at least, seriously, like you watch, you're like, oh fuck, I've seen it now, and it's kind of, it was a challenge to not just try to make fun of myself, which is what I do for a living.
I'm very good at it. Yeah. Very easy. I will say though, it's pretty easy for when we got, especially because between 3 and 4 there was how many years? 9 years, and the most striking thing to me was how quickly we were able to get back into character and into our comfort levels with each other, and it really is like riding. It really was like riding a bike. I mean, it really was kind of a fascinating thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of
the weird dynamics popped right back up. Like for some reason, we oddly idolize Klein. We're always like, oh god, I hope Klein thinks this is funny. I hope. I don't know. I love Chris Klein, but like for some reason, once we all get together, we're like, did Klein like it? And like me and this asshole, or
constantly.
Yeah.
But seriously, have you talked to Chris?
No, he doesn't call.
He doesn't
Doesn't call.
Hey Jason,
Yeah, what?
talk about Eugene Levy and how that relationship between him as a father figure for that whole trajectory, because I think he's the unsung sort of best man.
Yeah.
So he's fantastic. And so much of this movie's success I think revolves around Eugene. So.
Yeah, well, he really is. I mean, he really is a father figure to me. I mean, I was a fetus, as you can see, when we did that movie. And, I was 19 when I was cast and 20 when we shot it. And working with Eugene, we rehearsed before we started shooting. And a lot of those scenes, he's an improv master. And I was just trying to keep up with him. But a lot of those moments were born from either improv that happened in rehearsal or improv that happened the day of on set. And the more we got to work with each other over the years, and also because Jim's dad became a more prominently, Eugene only worked 4 days in the first, or 5 days in the first movie. Like something shockingly low, where you go, what, really?
And he worked only with you.
He worked only with me. He didn't even meet some of these guys until
I met him at the premiere.
Yeah. And then, so obviously he was, he worked a lot more in the other films, and we just got closer and knew each other's rhythms better, as we all did. But for me, just growing up, I mean, it's really crazy that I've kind of followed Jim's track a lot. I've been just a little bit behind Jim. Like for this last movie, or for part 3, he was married. I wasn't married. Then I got married by the time I came to 4. And then for 4, he's married with a kid. And then I just had a kid. But the whole time, Eugene has kind of been, I guess, watching me grow up, and I've looked up to him, and I miss Eugene. Where is Eugene? Did you invite him?
Eugene is in Canada. He wishes he could be here tonight.
Sean William Scott was in New York. He tried, but he was in New York. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was curious how much improv you guys used, and what were your favorite improv scenes that you filmed?
My favorite, it's not an improv, but it's a mistake, is I couldn't get the Vespa into first gear. So I was supposed to ride off into the sunset. Well, I was just supposed to ride off, but then the sun started setting. And so that moment when the Vespa stalls.
The worst, I'm laughing.
Yeah,
I'm
he's laughing.
literally cracking up.
That's a movie.
The worst bit of improv in the movie was, I remember when we got to the sex scenes, the one that was, at the end of the movie, the one that we really screwed up was when Chris Klein and Mina Suvari were there. We had no plan of how to shoot that. And we were like, so you guys, you're really into each other, and just, see what happens. They just looked at us and were like, what? Let's see what happens. We're like, okay, I don't know, take your shirt off or something. So that was yeoman work on their part, and I learned something about shooting sex scenes, which is you should have a plan going into it.
All right, let's do 2 more questions. Yep.
That's hilarious.
Both films have director teams. Was that a coincidence, or was that some sort of throwback to the original?
It was a requirement. No, I mean, just a complete coincidence.
But can I say something? Just as for the actors, there was, because Eddie talked earlier about the parallels. in terms of story, but like the whole vibe on set was crazily familiar, and part of that was having these two guys, because they work so well together, just as Paul and Chris did. So for us, it really, more than any of the other films in the series, this really felt like we were back shooting the first movie. It was surreal. Yeah.
And I think having two people direct too, it weirdly gives a vibe of constantly trying to make each other laugh. Because I've seen Chris and Paul like kind of do that, and then these two, and then we're just, you know, like trying to make Klein laugh. The whole time.
He has a great laugh.
It's a great laugh.
Great laugh.
All right, last question right there.
Hi there. This one's more for John Cho. I was
Yes.
wondering.
Couldn't help but notice you're Asian, my friend. I don't know if you're trying to hide it, but I see right through you.
I wanted to see if you could comment on your transition from American Pie to doing other films like Star Trek, and how the cast different. I mean,
Very fluid.
Yeah.
Seamless. MILF, warp, something like that. I just want to say this. You know, there's the DVD versions that I have not seen. But my greatest triumph in regards to American Pie was at the video store looking at I was like, oh, there's another American Pie movie. And I look at the cover, and there's like a young Asian kid on the cover, and I'm like, I created this slot. Minus me, that kid does not work.
You coined the term MILF.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean. Because I don't know.
All right, well, there's still one movie left, American Reunion, which I personally think has the best story of all 4 films. But, you know, I think 2 is the funnest, and 4 is like... What?
No one's here from 2, bro. You don't have to say that.
I love them all, really. You know that. No, thank you guys. Thank you, Michael, for the story. One programming with Scott Derrickson. He directed Exorcism of Emily Rose, Deliver Us from Evil. He's going to be here to introduce Straw Dogs and Clute with Jane Fonda. So look for that. And then I think that August 6th and 7th, we're trying. It's nothing like set in stone. But we played the trailer earlier. You all clapped, so you should come to that too. It's also John and Hayden both created Harold and Kumar, the entire franchise. He's filming a show right now, Cal's filming a show right now, and so we're going to try to have as much of that gang here August 6th, so look for that on the New Beth site. And yeah, so we'll take like a 5-6 minute break and then start Reunion.
Thank you, that was awesome. You did.